Let's zoom in on a specific target, a specific server or host. Let's talk about system hacking. So in system hacking, we have some objectives. You can understand techniques to gain system access. You can understand password cracking and privilege escalation, and how to create and maintain remote access to a system. And you can describe different types of rootkits and steganography, and how to hide evidence of a compromise. So we have a lot of topics here, and they're all interesting. We're going to start with system hacking methodology. Then we're going to go to Windows system vulnerabilities and exploits. Then Linux system vulnerabilities and exploits. We'll look at password cracking methods, including network service password cracking, Windows password cracking, Linux password cracking, the different password cracking tools, and other methods for obtaining passwords. We'll look at key logging, spyware and rootkits, hiding files, privilege escalation, creating and maintaining remote access, hiding evidence, and of course putting it all together in pen testing. So let's start with system hacking methodology. So what are we doing when we are system hacking? We're trying to gain access. There are a lot of ways to gain access. Very often, the operating system has vulnerabilities, or a service or an application has vulnerabilities, or we could social engineer somebody into installing something to give us access. Then once we've gained basic access, very often it is at a low level, because maybe we social engineered just some end user into installing something. We now need to escalate our privilege. We want to get to at least administrator privilege, if not system level privilege, which would allow us to do even more than the admin could do. We want to do this usually by taking advantage of flaws in the kernel of the operating system. You know, the kernel is the core part of the OS. And sometimes we can do escalate privilege through additional social engineering. Once we have enough privilege, we want to do whatever it is we originally came to do. We want to run our payloads, deface websites, steal data, modify things, use it as a jump point to attack the rest of the system, something. And very typically, we'll plant a remote access Trojan so we can keep on coming back to the same box without having to exploit it again. Very often also, you will be moving files in and out. And if you leave any files, particularly if they're like malicious applications, you want to try to hide them. And then, of course, you want to cover any trace of what you've been doing. You want to clear the logs and the history and delete any artifacts that you've been there. So if someone comes and looks for forensic evidence, it's all that much harder for them to identify what you've been up to. So with that little overview, let's get down to the nuts and bolts.